Hey. But actually, I can't figure out how to use the stand, so fuck the stand. Um, I wanted to reply to this because it's very similar to something I wanted to reply the other day, and then life happened, and I was just like, I ain't got the time. All right, so someone commented on something that I commented, and they were like, "How did you make it through? If you aren't still struggling as you were in the beginning, I know someone who's going through something similar with a baby and finance struggles just like Nagad, and they've been shunned by relatives." Um, okay, so when people start talking about journaling, I think that there's some uh, like nuance sort of idea about what journaling is and why you do it. And I think that's where a lot of serious conversations have to happen, where people stop comparing their lives to other people. Like if I have this gray comfy and then I'm warm, right? Because like I'm indoors, because I have a thermostat, because the thermostat is set to 70, like if someone else has the same comfy and they go right outside, it's snowing in Nashville right now, okay? Or at least it was yesterday. So you actually won't receive the same warmth that I do, even though you have the same comfy. So the big idea is that like just because you take the same steps as someone else does not mean that you're going to get the same result. So it's really nice to be inspired by someone else, but context is so critical. You have to look at your own situation, like your own situation. And so a big part of that is like what you know, what you don't know, what your preferences are, what your values are, what your standards are, trust, there's finances, like there's just so much shit that has to be like taken into account to really like make decisions about stuff. And it's hard. It's really hard. Um like sometimes you're going to just make the wrong choice. You just are. Okay, so to walk that back, whoever this person is that this guy says is struggling, I would say that first of all, it actually doesn't matter if your family shuns you. I think that it's something weird about tribalism. Unless your family is literally paying your bills, it doesn't matter. No one actually matters except the people who pay your bills. And we all have bills. Okay, this is why I think some of you guys are confused about like princesses, kings, and queens and all of this shit. And everybody's just walking around here with a crown when they need to be walking around in work boots. If you're a princess, that means that you don't work because your parents just pay for everything. Now, there's actually quite a few Americans who kind of live that situation, but most of us don't. So a lot of you guys are taking purity politics again and all of this other shit and calling that like princess behavior. So you're clumping up any woman who stays at home and takes care of kids as like princesses. Being a poor mother, nothing about that is princess like. It's actually extremely difficult and like it is a burden of love, but a task of labor. I mean, you're working all the fucking time, all the time, all the time. And no part of that is like simply fun. Okay? It's exhausting. And that's what people don't like to talk about because they don't want to complain when they have a blessing. Um, I don't know. I think it's more useful to be pragmatic and to be honest about like where you personally stand, what it is that you understand, okay, and like how okay, how do you say this? It's important to be pragmatic about where you are, where you stand, and how um kind of like what you understand and what you don't understand. Both of those things are important. Nobody is going to be, you're not going to understand everything. There's going to be a lot of shit that like doesn't make sense and that you don't understand, and that's real, and that's okay. That's okay, and that's real. Um so this woman who's in, first of all, like she needs to separate herself from her family. It sounds like they're not supportive and they're not doing anything for her anyway. That was the same situation that Nagad was in, and when she made other videos about this is like when I first started watching her channel. She would talk all the time about how there are all these things happening in Muslim culture among being around being Somali, and like what it meant and how her family kind of shunned her. But here's the reality, like when you grow up, like when you turn 18, you kind of are on your own. The problem is a lot of parents don't prepare their kids to actually be on their own at 18, so they're just super, super dependent. This is also really bad amongst black males, but really black women too, just because they don't understand kind of all the threats that are out there, specifically like the threats among men. Like it does seem simple enough, right? Like get a job, get an apartment. But then there's typically some drama with some dude. Like a dude just happened, they come in so quickly, and usually the men coming in destroys the lives. But okay, so this woman, somehow she's the woman that we're talking about who is in this bad relationship. So so now she has this baby. She needs to just ask herself, like, what is she needs to look at all her options, right? And say, like, where can I go right now where I will be safe with my child? That's the first thing. It kind of feels like it's not with the guy who the father of the child. So it's not with him. Okay, so maybe her mom, maybe her grandma, maybe her best friend. Like there has to be somebody in the community. If you are friends with her, what about you? You know what I mean? Like don't count yourself out. Like being a good person when a person's in a bad situation is a real thing. Just because you're not their family member doesn't mean you can be decent. And if you have an apartment or something, I don't see why you wouldn't be willing to help if that's your friend. Now, if that's not your friend and you're up here like faking, just trying to like find information to gossip, well, fuck you. And like also like, yeah, you should just stop being friends with her because you don't give a shit anyway. So the reality is like, because honestly, her family members might not care. That's a cold part that some of you guys don't get. Some of you guys really feel like, oh, this word family is supposed to mean something to people with whom family has never meant anything. Like families who don't have any resources to share. The reason that marriage is important, it's about just passing down financial resources. If you don't have any financial resources to pass down, then your family members are pretty much equivalent to everyone else in general society who is just not throwing money at you every time you need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, be serious. Like, when you talk to strangers on the street, are they just handing you dollars? No. Like, when, you know what I mean? Like, I've had friends who've done more for me than my parents have because, like, when you're not wealthy, you just have to like kind of take care of yourself. Your parents will, sometimes they'll pragmatically think about like, is this thing that my kid needs like actually something? Is it like a want? They'll prioritize and be like, and kind of talk to you about if it's necessary or not, because they could be using that money for other things that they have to pay for because they're adults too. And that's how it goes. And that's why like proper parenting is important. And there's like a real need to like teach your children how to behave in society and how to take care of themselves. Like that's a real thing, and that's a real thing just for a reason, because like with limited resources, if you spend those resources in inappropriate ways, you could be down real bad. As y'all see, homelessness is like a real problem. Like there's a lot of people who are homeless, and a lot of it is because of bad financial decisions that they've made. If they would have made better financial decisions, they would not actually be in the awful places that they are now, and that's just a fact. Okay, anyway, so I was going to say something else. So what does that mean in terms of journaling? and kind of self-care here. What it means is that, like, this girl has to get her shit together. I mean, she has a fucking baby. She should already have her shit together. I mean, we got to be serious here. Like, for me personally, like, and I keep saying this, like, I just come from a place of privilege. So if you want to really start any story for anyone who's in adulthood now, start it at your senior year of high school. Your senior year of high school, what did you know? What didn't you know? What was your situation? And what was your plan? If the answer to that was nothing, you had no plan, okay, so then ask yourself where you are now, what is it that you did? Because what should have happened is you should have gone to college somewhere and got a degree in something. Now, if you did that, okay, then now let's talk. Maybe you're in this limbo period. If she did all of that and then now after college, she's all like, okay, I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life now that I have this baby. Then she can start making decisions about careers, like finding a new job, blah, 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 new apartment. Okay. Now, if she didn't do any of that, this is a whole different situation. So, firstly, you'd have to start by saying, okay, so who's the dad to this kid? Where's the dad? Like, what's happening? Because now you guys are like two adults, right? And that means like probably two separate households are about to take place. And it sounds like she doesn't have a household right now. We don't know what his situation is, but neither one of their parents matter. Like, nobody should be having any conversations about parents. Fuck the parents. The parents are contributing nothing. They're not contributing financial means. They're not contributing emotional well-being. They probably got their own toxic shit that they're dealing with, and they have nothing to contribute to this girl and her new baby. Like, she needs to run far, 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 far away from them because they are not helping her at all. Like, so start there. Okay, so now that she's not talking about anyone else and she's just looking at herself, what is real, she has a baby now, and this guy, some dude, so this dude has to get a job. If he doesn't have a job, he has to get one. When he gets the job, she needs to file for child support and use that money to buy the kid clothes and food. If she doesn't have food stamps, she needs to get the food stamps. If she doesn't have enough food there, go to the church and go to the pantry and get food. That exists everywhere in the United States. So start there. Then she needs to ask herself about, like, housing. I don't know. If she doesn't have any friends at all to help her, go to the church, go to the homeless shelter. They have shelters for women and children. That is the option. That was in my personal situation. Like, I had my partner, like, owned his home, and my mom owned her home. So personally, I was just going back and forth between those two places. And so, like, there was no, we were functioning between like both families in this case were homeowners. So, it was more like, where do I want to stay? And I had to prioritize myself because honestly, I had to look at the partner who I was with and say, like, yes, I don't like being with him. And then I had to look at my mom, my parents, and be like, yeah, I don't want to live with them either. So therefore, I had to be like, okay, so both of those options are now closed for me. I mean, they were temporary options, right? I used them when I had to, but I also realized they were not long-term options for me because I had to put my own personal wants and needs ahead of everyone else and say, I don't like those people. It's not that I like dislike them enough to where I'm like wishing bad shit on them, even though some of the shit my mom has done, I have. It's just more like my routine doesn't match their routine. I don't live like them. I don't want to live like them. I don't want their lifestyle. Like, you have to ask yourself, what is your lifestyle? Her lifestyle right now is just, it should be just working and being a mom to that baby. Like, that's pretty much what's going on with her right now. It kind of sounds like she's not really able to work, but there's lots of jobs. Okay, she should go get a job at a restaurant, McDonald's, the FedEx store, like whatever, Target, Walmart, like whatever store is like really near where she is right now. Go in, get a job, collect the paycheck, do this for 4 weeks. Okay, that's a month, whatever, and then figure out how much money she has. Then she needs to get an apartment. You need to just search around, get on the internet, rent a room, start somewhere, get on the internet, Facebook Marketplace, Airbnb, short and long-term rentals. There's quite a lot of options, but you need to be paying for where you're living and have your own personal room where her and her child can go in and lock the door, and somewhere where she can like cook food, those types of things. Like, she has to have that for herself. She has to have that for herself. Like, there's not really another thing. Like, and then you start piecing up. You have to start getting furniture. You have to start getting kitchen appliances. There's only so much money. So it's about budgeting. Like, every penny you have to say, if I have $100, maybe I can only afford a $59 air mattress at Walmart. Like, my bed is like an $800 bed, but I saved for that bed. Like, my little metal bed frame, it's like, what, $189. I worked and saved for that. Like, every single appliance in here, I worked and saved for it. And then I had to get renter's insurance because my apartment kept getting robbed. So I have to file insurance claims to replace the shit that is gone after a robbery. Like, adulting is hard. It is not fucking easy, and it isn't cheap, and it isn't free. Every single thing costs money. The electricity costs money. The water costs money. The food costs money. The transportation. My bus pass costs $65 every single month. Every single thing costs money. It's expensive to be alive. It is not free. It's expensive. But this is the cost. Like, we all have to pay the cost. Everyone. So, to anyone else who's like young, if you're in high school and you're watching this, just fucking game up. Like, realize that you're going to have to do something. Like, you're going to have to pay. There's no free ride. Everyone pays. Every single person. Everyone pays. So, just choose. Like, you can go and study something that's challenging. STEM, analytics, what else might be a good one? If you want to go be a doctor or something like that, an accountant, a psychologist, something like that, a teacher even, they don't make a lot of money, but they will make enough money for you to pay your bills, and you have to do that. We all have to pay our bills. It is a requirement. And you just have to think like that. You have to think in terms of dollars and cents. And that's it. There's actually not like another thing. Groceries you should have some sort of routine for yourself where you like know what it is that you need to eat, okay, so that you can like eat that thing and you can pay for it. And yeah, have some idea of how much your internet costs each month, right? So that you can pay for it because it costs money. I don't know, like, things cost money, and that's not really like a bad thing.